Hey Bulls, we are so excited to have you live on campus here at USF. But before that, let's talk about the do's and don'ts of moving in. Whether you are living in traditional, suite, or apartment style, it is important to know what you will need in your room. If you're living with others, it's always a good idea to connect with your roommates to know whether an item can be shared. For example, sharing a TV, mini fridge, or bookshelf can help you manage the space within your room. Please be aware, no physical alterations may be done to the room. For example, you may not paint or place nails on the walls. Here at USF, we care about our student safety. Therefore, it is important to avoid bringing items such as candles, extension cords, personal grills, lava lamps, and electric heaters. We also do not allow residents to hang lights from their walls and ceilings, such as holiday lights or LED light strips. To find more information on our policies and guidelines, please visit usf.edu/housing, click Resources, and then Policies. There are many ways you can make your room feel like home. Start off by making sure you pack everything you will need for the semester. This could include your clothes, favorite blankets, pillows, desk decor, and other items essential to your room. It's also important that you lift your boxes safely while you're moving into your hall. You want to make sure you are keeping your back straight and not twisting as you lift. Hold the item as close to your body as possible. If you cannot lift the item by yourself, ask someone for help. Another safety tip for move-in day, make sure you hydrate. Take as many breaks as you need. Don't forget to wear your sunscreen, a hat, and sunglasses. It is important to wear comfortable clothing to avoid overheating, and wear proper shoes to protect your feet. Oh, and one more thing. Don't forget to have fun. We can't wait for you to live the Bulls life. Go Bulls!
Coming to you from the beautiful University of South Florida campus in Tampa, it's USF Housing Live.
Hello and welcome to USF Housing Live. I am your host, Dr. Andy Johnson, the Director for Operations and Outreach with Housing and Residential Education at the beautiful University of South Florida here in Tampa. We have an exciting episode planned tonight to help you prepare for college. Throughout the summer, we'll be talking about on-campus housing, academic success, dining, financial aid, and so much more. So be sure to join us on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. to hear from our campus experts and to have your questions answered live here on the show. So tonight, we'll be talking all about the new student experience at USF. First, we'll be joined by a representative from Academic Advocacy, and later on, we'll have a representative from the Office of Financial Aid to answer all your questions about scholarships, loans, and payments. Be sure to drop your questions in the comments from wherever you're watching, and we'll be sure to answer as many as we can throughout tonight's show. So now, I'd like to introduce Zumali Ramirez. She is an academic advocate for the Office of Academic Advocacy and an instructor with undergraduate studies. So how are you doing, Z?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited that you've joined us tonight. So let's get right into it. So tell us a little bit about your office and what you do.
All right. So yes, I'm Zulmali Ramirez, but my students and my staff members call me Z. That's a little bit easier.
Yeah, right.
So I work with the Office of Academic Advocacy, which is housed within undergraduate studies. Oh. We're actually located in student services in the second floor. And academic advocacy was basically created as part of the student success movement in order to provide additional support to our students as they're going through their academics, navigating college life. And so the concept was to have an advocate assigned to every student. Basically, every undergraduate student here at USF has an assigned advocate who can assist, provide support through their time here until they graduate with their undergraduate studies degree.
That's fantastic. So you're in the Student Services building, which, as I recall, it is on, and you said the second floor, which is going to be right above admissions,
yes.
Right? All right. So easy to find right off the bat. So what is an advocate? What do you do on a day-to-day basis for
So
for our
academic
students?
advocacy, basically we're case managers.
Okay.
And what we do is, as we're assigned to our students, we work individually with them because although a lot of scenarios are very similar from student to student, every person is unique. So we want to hear our students' voice and their scenario. So we want to provide the best support possible, connect them to the right resources, explain their policies, their options, help them navigate through those. For example, if a student needs assistance with a petition or grade forgiveness or understanding academic standing, we're here to provide that support.
That's fantastic. Now, my math's a little off here, but we have 40 something thousand students here.
Yes.
Is it just you?
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy.
It's 9 of us, and it's still not enough.
Okay.
So we have 3 advocates assigned to our first-year population. I'm one of them.
Okay.
We have 3 advocates assigned to those students from sophomore to graduation, and we have 3 advocates assigned to our transfer population. So it's a group of 9, but again, you mentioned the number. It's a lot of students. So we may not work individually with each student like an advisor would, but we want to make sure that we connect with students as they're facing any challenges or may need support or may need assistance with anything through their time here.
Now, I know you touched on it a little bit with helping them navigate, paperwork, administrative stuff, but are there other challenges or areas that academic advocacy helps with?
Yes. For instance, with my first-year population, and I say my because I care a lot for my
Yeah,
students,
yeah.
and it's been quite a couple of years. So with our students during the first year, we see a lot of similar challenges where you may be homesick, you may not be connecting. High school and college, different worlds. You may not know the policies, all the in and out. So that's where we start guiding our students. And then we have from sophomore to graduation, as we're working with those students, is am I on the right path? Am I on the right path to graduate on time and save a little money?
That's right, because our goal is to get you out of here in
Yes.
4 years.
And as a transfer student, am I able to finish, if I have an AA degree, am I able to finish in the 2 years, 3 years, whatever that may be? So we're trying to support the student academically, personally, and try to remove those barriers that may be coming in the way as life happens.
You mentioned that these are your students, and I think that is that's awesome, right? Because we always pride ourselves on being a big campus,
Yes.
right? But making it feel very
Yes.
small, and that personal support really is a testament.
My goal is to create a relationship with my student. And again, I mentioned each person is unique, so I want them to know that they're important to me, just like I wanted to have that voice when I was a student. And we always talk about the sense of belonging here at USF, so for me, it's very important that the student can trust me enough to then talk about those challenges so that we can open up together and work together.
Yeah, and we've been working together long enough that I know
Yes.
that is absolutely 100% the way you operate. So that's fantastic. All right, so let's say that there is a student who visits your office for support or to help overcome a challenge, and they can't do it, right? There's something that's there. What's the next step?
So yes, there's instances where the student can just get assistance in 1 or 2 meetings, but there's challenges that are a little bit bigger and they may take a little bit more time.
Okay.
And so, as I mentioned, you are assigned to an advocate through your undergraduate degree here. So you will receive our support through that time. Again, life happens. So sometimes we work with a student for a few months. Sometimes that student needs that support a little bit more long term.
Now I'm gonna go a little off script here because I just happened to think of this question.
Yes.
But what you do is different than an academic advisor, correct?
Thank you for that, because it is very confusing to our students to hear academic advocate, academic advisor. That's the number one thing that we hear. Can you remove my holds? Can you help me
Right.
with the courses for next semester? And as much as I provide general information, I am not an expert on each of these areas. So I allow my peers who are the experts to have those conversations with my students. So I do have to explain to my students that I cannot remove holds. I cannot talk about particular classes for their major, but I'm here to talk about the overall, like the big picture on academics. What is it that you need as a student that I can help you get connected with?
That's fantastic because definitely figuring out that glide path for them so that they stay on target and graduate in 4 years or less. That's fantastic. So so if someone needed your services, how do they find you? How do they get connected?
We have various ways, which is the great thing. Students can self-refer. So if they go to our website, they can complete the intake, and we connect them with the assigned advocate, because it's very hard for them to, as we know, email is our way of communicating, and there's a lot of other departments emailing the students. So they may not remember who the assigned advocate was. So they will fill out the intake form, explain a little bit more of the challenges they need assistance with, and we get connected with them. Faculty members can refer students. Other departments and care partners can refer students. We have a system called Archivum, where we also have that platform to create more formal referrals. And in advocacy, each group, meaning the first year, the progression or the transfer group, we weekly we look at reports and data that tells us if a student may be having a little bit of academic difficulty based on perhaps grades or holds or things like that.
So in looking at that data, do you do outreach to
Yes.
those? So you're very proactive in
Yes.
your approach as well.
So currently, I am working with the 2022 first time in college cohort. And so we're currently looking at, for example, registration. So each semester and each week of the semester, there's something going on academically. It may be ad drop, it may be withdrawal deadline, it may be midterm grades, finals. After finals, your academic standing may change. So we're constantly looking at that data in order to connect with the students. So I will connect with them individually in order to assist them. So they may receive an outreach from me regarding grades, or, hey, I see that you have 3 holes on the account. Are you aware that you have this impacting your registration for next semester? Or, hey, are you aware that we have resources like wellness, academic services, etc.? Many times, mostly again, first year students are unaware of all the resources we have here at USF for them.
Again, all I'm hearing is care.
Yes.
I'm just bringing that,
Yes.
that care, and that's a team of care, not just an individual of care.
And we call
So-
our partners care team partners for
Oh,
a reason.
hey, I didn't even know that.
Yes.
So that's pretty funny. So I didn't know that. All right. Well, where can students and families go to learn more about your services?
They can visit our website, which is usf.edu/OAA for Office of Academic Advocacy. Parents can also submit referrals if they have questions. Of course, depending on FERPA, we will connect with them and provide the information that may have questions on. But yes, we invite anyone to visit the website, call us, email us, or fill out an intake form.
That's awesome. So, and I think we just put that information up on the screen.
Great.
So that's great. All right. Well, Zoe, thank you so much for spending
Of
some
course,
time with
my
us tonight.
pleasure.
It was really great to catch up and to hear more about the services. So, all right. Well, it is time for us to take a short break, and we will be right back here with more USF Housing Live right after this.
My name is Tenley Terrell. I am a senior at USF. My major is environmental science and policy, and I'm minoring in biology as well. My favorite place on campus has to be the big columns with all the flowers in front of the MSC. It's just the prettiest place on campus in my opinion, and I love being able to sit out there with some friends and talk. A fun fact about me is that I have a fish. His name is Grandmaster Pete. My future plans are to attend graduate school. I'm currently sending out applications right now. My advice to first year students would be to just put yourself out there because you never know the friends that you're going to make, and everyone on campus is usually really friendly. My favorite USF tradition, I think, would have to be the balloon drop in the beginning of the semester. It's just a place where everyone meets, and it's just a big sense of community at the start of the school year, and it sets everything off with a good tone. Some of my hobbies, I really enjoy crocheting. I like making blankets for my loved ones. I also play Ultimate Frisbee at USF on the club team, and I enjoy aquarium keeping and keeping my fish. What made me want to become an RA? I would say the leadership experience that it offers. I've always been pretty involved with housing. I was a part of the Residence Hall Association and then Hall Council my first year. So moving up in leadership positions, I think, was something that I tried to emphasize in my time here at USF. So I think that becoming an RA was just the next step for me. The best part about being an RA, I would say playing an active role in your community. So I get to serve as a resource and a guide to first year students and second year students and all types of students, and kind of be their rock to lean on when they don't know where to go. So I think that building a strong and engaged community is the best part about being an RA. The most rewarding part about being an RA, like I said, would probably be seeing my residents grow into like their true selves and seeing them become comfortable with who they are and their actions, seeing them explore their interests and grow as a person. I think that the community that residential life fosters is a really positive and encouraging one. I think that you should become an RA if you want to be more involved in your community, if you want to grow your leadership experiences and just become a more well-rounded student and individual.
Welcome back. For those of you who are just now joining us, this is USF Housing Live, and we're here to help you prepare to live the Bulls life at USF. Ask us your questions in the comments, and we'll answer them live right here on the show. Our second guest tonight is the program director for the Office of Financial Aid, Damian Lovett. Damian, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great, Andy.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Man, I'm excited you're here. So, this is an exciting topic, right?
Always.
I've got lots of questions ready to go for you. But let's start with some easy ones, right? So, tell us a little bit about your role here at USF and the Office of Financial Aid.
Yes, I'm the program director, and my chief responsibility is making sure that we have all of the financial aid process for our 30,000 students, typically to the tune of about $500 million a year.
Wow, that's a lot of aid.
Yes, it is. And I also oversee our financial education program here at USF, which we call Bull to Bull.
Oh, that's an important one. That is a very important one. So speaking of that kind of thing, right, our financial education, one of the questions I know my team gets asked a lot is, when is the bill due? So I'm going to go to the expert. When do students need to pay their bill?
Absolutely. So that's one of the most important things once you're here,
Yeah, right.
is to pay for it. So typically, if the student doesn't have any type of financial aid, any grants, loans, scholarships, then tuition is going to be due at the end of the first week of classes every semester. If the student does have financial aid, then we will defer that payment for the student until about 7 weeks into the term to make sure that the student has enough money coming in or other ways to pay their bill if needed.
Okay. So no aid due by 5 p.m. on Friday of the first week. Aid, you got a little more time to allow it to catch up.
Correct.
So, okay. That's pretty easy.
Makes it easy.
Makes it easy. So, all right. So in terms of aid, is financial aid applied or awarded before the tuition deadline?
It typically is,
Okay.
and of course, that's all going to depend, of course, when the student applies for financial aid. For our incoming first-time in college students, our typical freshmen, if they complete their FAFSAs the year before they begin college, usually around October, November, then they receive a financial aid award offer from our office in December. So that prepares them to get ready to come the following August. So they'll have all of that aid information at that point.
Okay. And then where's the best place to find out about that aid or to view it?
So the best place to actually view the financial aid is going to be inside of OASIS.
Okay.
So you students can log in there at any point in time and access their financial aid, see how much they're going to be receiving. And then later on into the summer, once they start to get their classes registered for, they've been to orientation, then they will start to see the actual bill taking shape.
In OASIS.
In OASIS.
Everything happens in OASIS,
Everything's
right?
in OASIS.
Now, I think you had mentioned this previously, but do they also get an email with their award?
Yes, they will also receive an email, and those emails are sent to the student at their USF email address. And when we send those out, if the student completed a FAFSA application to get their financial aid, then we will also send a reminder email to the parent that's on the FAFSA to let them know that their student has received a financial aid award offer from our office, and to kind of sit down together and go through and kind of make a financial plan to make sure that everything is on track once the student begins school.
That's important, that financial plan. So now you mentioned the USF email, so I just got to put it in there as well that it is important to
Absolutely.
regularly check, because it is our official means of communication here at USF. So awesome. So you mentioned OASIS, right, as the student portal. Is there a way for a family member to see the aid or to to be a part of that experience?
Unfortunately, at USF, there isn't a portal for families or parents to access their students' information, whether it be academic or financial. So the best thing to do, and this is what we always advise students and families to do, is keep that line of communication open. Because once the student is actively enrolled and they're receiving all of the assistance from the university, everything in their account is personal and private. So that's one of the things that we always say is, hey, mom, dad, loved ones, talk to your students and make sure you have that kind of understanding. To say, make sure you can show me your grades, show me your financial aid, because at some point in time, even though, yes, they are college students, they may need some help kind of navigating whatever may come up. And they will still need their loved ones to be able to do that.
Yeah, a few weeks ago we had Assistant Dean Marnie Hauser on, and she was talking a lot about FERPA, right, and now student rights and to privacy. So very, very important. So we do have an audience question. So I'm ready to throw out there. Okay. Ready for the wild card?
Ready.
All right. So Stephanie asks, as of right now, my child's Bright Futures is not showing. Does this information update automatically to the college?
And for some reason in the back of my head, I knew that was going to be the question that we received. And it's a great question because for students that are incoming first-year students, they just graduated from high school a couple weeks ago. And so it takes the state of Florida a while to get that information certified and out to the schools. So right now, it's no real big concern. The only thing that the student and the family members can do is to just log into the Bright Futures account and actually check to see what the status is. It may not be finalized yet because it does take the state some time to do that. Typically, they do release that information to all of the schools around July 1st. And after that point, it will start to update into the student financial aid records automatically. Okay. The only thing that I would advise as well is for the student to make sure that they have USF listed on their Bright Futures application so that we can download it. And that's really important because if a student was applying to different schools throughout the application process and they did not indicate that they were coming to USF, then it would not be delivered to us. And so it's a really easy update. Just go in, type in our school name, and it will come to us the next day.
All right. So I'm going to go back to something you previously said is because you know that you're getting Bright Futures, and it's part of your scholarship package, then it will be on your award, which you have until the 7th week of school to make sure that it hits your account. Right. So you're good. So awesome. Well, we have Stephanie and Jana asks, can you speak on work study? Does the student choose what area they wish to work? So I know that we advertise jobs and careers, and a lot of them notate federal work study, but maybe speak a little bit about work study in general.
Absolutely. We love work study.
We do love work study.
Work study is a federal financial aid program for students that qualify for it. So if they do qualify for it, in their financial aid award offers, they will have a dollar amount that is allocated to them. So typically for incoming freshmen, they may have at a maximum $7,000 as an award, which means that they can work to earn that $7,000 throughout the course of the school year. And you mentioned going into careers at USF to try to find work study positions that are posted. In addition to that, they can also check into Handshake. And if there are any offices that are hiring work study students, which we hire at the university hundreds of work study students, you can just walk into an office and ask if you're hiring.
Yep. And in most offices, if you're federal work study, we'll go, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I would even plug my office in there because we are also looking for federal work study students for the upcoming fall. But the main benefit of the work study program is if you are a student, and especially if you are living on campus, your job is on campus, your classes are on campus, you don't have to commute anywhere. And you have the flexibility to work around your class schedule. And if you're able to do that, then chances are you're going to do a lot better because you have some additional support that may be needed. For instance, if you just want to know what's going on campus, then you're already going to know. And more than likely, the person that you're working for, they're going to know some information as well as your supervisor that can kind of help you and be your guide and your mentor.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we always like to make sure is that our student employment aligns with career objectives, right? So you can leave employment with most offices at the university with skills to be able to take into your future.
Correct.
So, yeah. So I was going to say one more thing about work study. It doesn't apply to your bill, though, right? You get a real paycheck.
Absolutely. So as a part of the work study program, you work just like a employee at the university because that's what you are. And every 2 weeks you get paid a paycheck. It does not get applied to your outstanding bill that you may owe to the university. What the work study funds are meant to be used for is for your incidentals. So your toiletries, your personal hygiene products, things of that nature, whatever you would normally ask your parents or loved ones to kind of buy for you. You have a job that you can actually use that yourself and buy those things that you may need on a daily basis.
That's awesome. So, all right. So we have another audience question. So Sherry asks, I completed FAFSA at the end of 2022. Should another one be completed for the fall of 2023?
Oh, that is an even better question. So the FAFSA application has to be completed every year that the student's in school. So for students that are coming into the university in the fall of 2023, the application that should have been completed is the 2023-24 FAFSA application. And then once you're here as a student, you reapply for the next year. And typically that is in October. For the 2024 year, which will start in the fall of 2024. So the only caveat to that is that for the 2024-25 school year, there are going to be significant changes to the FAFSA application, and the Department of Education will not be releasing that application until December of 2023.
Oh, wow. Long time.
Just a couple months delay.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good information because I didn't know that either. So we talked a little bit about family members. We talked a little bit about the FAFSA. Is there anything to consider about financial aid when we're talking about minors?
So as far as minors are concerned, so if the student is younger than the age of 18, once they become a student at college, they are actually admitted. They are officially considered for educational purposes as an adult.
Okay.
So the only thing that will come into play is if the student happens to be younger than 13 years of age with completing the FAFSA application. They cannot complete that application at that age online because there are internet laws that prevent them from being able to enter into a legal document, which the FAFSA is. But other than that, if you are above that age, then you are considered an adult and able to partake in every other activity except for voting.
Yep, except for voting. But we do promote our civic duties here on
Correct.
campus. So absolutely. So you talked a little bit about being making that privacy conversion, right? And so we talked a lot about that a couple weeks ago with FERPA. And so if anybody needs to rewatch that episode, as with orientation. So we talked a little bit about FERPA in there as well. So we've talked a little bit about paying bills, but sometimes students need to withdraw from classes or a class. What happens to their aid?
Yeah, so that's a two-pronged answer.
All right.
And whenever you're making academic decisions, especially if you have financial aid, we always advise students to talk to us first before you make that academic decision. Because if you withdraw from a course, so for instance, if you have a Florida Bright Future Scholarship, you have to repay that money back to the state of Florida in order to maintain your scholarship eligibility for the next school year. However, there are some financial aid programs that if you withdraw from classes, you may have to repay those funds as well. But in addition to that, you could also jeopardize your eligibility for the financial aid down the road. And so obviously we want to talk to students to kind of educate them on what those ramifications are. So the decision can be made by themselves as a student, and if they have to consult their academic advisors to find that best path that's going to work for them.
I was just sitting here thinking about maybe a previous guest that would be a good advocate and resource to students, as I'm looking offset a little bit at her still, but make sure that you visit those resources for sure. So thank you for that. So we've talked about scholarships and awards, but there's also other forms of payment, right? So we gotta at least acknowledge that there are student loans options out there. There are. So talk to me a little about what kind of student loans can a student use or be accepted here?
Well, there are lots of student loan options for students that qualify based on the FAFSA. We have three main types: the subsidized loan, the unsubsidized loan, and the parent loan, which we call the PLUS loan. That parents can borrow on behalf of their student. The subsidized loan and the unsubsidized loan, those are both coming directly from the federal government. The difference between the two is that the subsidized loan allows the students' interest payments to be paid for by the federal government while they're in school. For the unsubsidized loans, those interest payments are deferred until the student either leaves school, or they can elect to pay those interest payments month to month and kind of get some of those payments out of the way before they actually leave school. In addition to that, we also have institutional loans that we provide to our out-of-state resident students to kind of help bridge that buffer because tuition is a lot more expensive for out-of-state students than it is for in-state students. And then there are private loans, which are what we call the loan of last resort. So you've received all of your you received all of your subsidized loans, your unsubsidized loans. Your parents may have borrowed, but there still may be a gap. Typically, we see this a lot more with out-of-state students. But in-state students can have it as well. But these are loans that you receive that are educational in nature from a bank. That you go through their application process. So it's like a educational consumer loan that's designed to help you bridge that gap and have the additional money to pay your bill.
Okay. So if there's an order in which you would recommend a family to consider or a student to consider the loan progression, where would you start?
Yes, so we always start with the subsidized loan if the student is eligible for that, to borrow that one first. And that is because the interest is being paid by the government while they're in school. And then the next one would be the unsubsidized loan. The interest rates for both of those are typically the same amount, which does change on a yearly basis. So every July 1st, the rates change based on what year you're borrowing the loans for. And then navigating into the institutional and private loans. So they all have different benefits, and we always encourage students to make sure that they are aware of how much they're borrowing because it does accumulate over the course of time that you're in school. And once you're done, the government will want those payments back.
Oh, they do. Oh, yes, they do. Well, that actually segues into a great question that Maria has about how does one go about paying the monthly interest so it doesn't compound? So really she's asking like when the student is in school.
So that's an advanced question.
That is a smart question. Somebody needs to be in the was it Bull to Bull?
In Bull to Bull, yes.
Yes, so the financial literacy. So
yeah, so if you want to make those payments on the interest while the student's in school, as a part of the process to actually borrow the loans, there are a couple things that have to be done. The first thing that has to be done is completing the entrance counseling, which is required by law to get the loan. In addition to that is completing the master promissory note, which is actually the contract that you're signing with the government that you're planning on repaying the funds that you're borrowing. When you do that master promissory note, there is a box on the online form that you can check to say I'm going to pay the interest as I go. And once you do that, then you would have to set up the payment arrangements with the loan servicer that's provided. So that's just the company that collects the money on the repayments. And they will work with you and get that information and be happy to take your payments.
Yeah, they would. All right, so Jana has a question. If you have been awarded financial aid, are deferments automatic or is there an additional form?
Oh, that's a great question because I did not say that. So deferments.
Jana was in your head, huh?
Yes. So deferments are automatic. So once the student registers for their courses, And we have not started this process yet for the fall, so we will start it later on in July, probably around the last week of July. We will start applying the tuition deferments to students' accounts in OASIS, and once we do that, as long as the student's registered and has financial aid, they will get that automatically. And in order to check to see if you have that, once it's that point in time, the student just logs into OASIS and goes to financial aid, and then navigates to My Requirements, Bookstore Authorizations and Deferments, and they will be able to see that they have the deferment posted. In addition to that, we will also send an email reminder to the student just to let them know that they do have that automatic deferment applied to their account.
So just in case some people don't know, what do you mean by deferment? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so the deferment, so when we began, we talked about the when the bill was due. So the bill is typically due at the end of the first week of classes if you don't have financial aid. However, in order for us to pay financial aid to students, we have to confirm that they're actually in the classes that we're going to give them the money for.
Right.
So in order for us to confirm that, the first week of classes has to actually be over. So we actually release the financial aid or pay the financial aid, apply it to the bill on the 7th day of classes.
Okay.
So by that token, if we did not provide the student with a deferment, then their payment would be late. They would be canceled from their classes.
Gotcha.
So the deferment is our mechanism of keeping students in their classes, in addition to keeping them from receiving late fees for being late.
Yep, we don't need that.
And we don't need that. So we will provide that deferment to the student, knowing that they're going to have some source of financial aid to help pay their bill. And the good thing about it is it does not have to be enough to cover their entire bill. So it will work if you only receive $100 in whatever financial aid you're receiving and you have a $5,000 bill, we still give you a deferment to give you additional time to come up with the rest of the money.
All right, awesome. Now, you going off script here again, right? So, personal question now. You mentioned BAP.
Yes,
Right.
bookstore authorization.
So maybe talk to a little bit about what that means. What is that?
Yeah, so the Bookstore Advanced Purchase Program is a partnership that we have with the USF Bookstore. And that particular program, basically, it allows students to purchase their textbooks before classes begin each semester if they have more financial aid than they owe to the university. So the easiest example that I could use in giving this numerically is if you're receiving $3,100 in financial aid and you owe the university $3,000, we will tell the bookstore the student has $100 remaining in financial aid. Let them buy $100 worth of books. And once you use that money, then we will use your financial aid refund that would have been expected to repay the bookstore based on the amount that you charged. So that's the easy example. And that $100, I always say it's enough to probably buy about a half a book.
Got it. Yeah, books are expensive. So, all right. So, Damian, we've covered a lot tonight, but let's say someone still has questions. How do they get in contact with
Yes.
you or with your office?
Yes, so we have two main points of contact. The first is actually visiting the office in person, which they can do Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., or call us on the phone from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Those are our two main points of contact. And typically the best times to reach us are early in the morning, both in person and over the phone. Typically, because most people aren't awake quite yet, and it's easier to get to us. And if you walk into the office, it's the exact same thing.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. We really appreciate it and sharing some of your wisdom and your experience. So, I would also like to thank Z for being here tonight as well. So if you have any further questions for our guests, please feel free to reach out to their offices. We did put their information on the bottom of our screen. If you have any questions about living on campus at USF, you can reach out to our office by email at housing@usf.edu or give us a call at 813-974-0001. Be sure to join us on our next episode of Housing Live next Wednesday, June 14th. Here at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be talking all about how to prepare for a successful year at USF. You can watch on our Facebook or YouTube page or the USF Parent and Family Engagement Facebook page. USF Housing Live is produced by Housing and Residential Education at the University of South Florida in Tampa, where our motto is the best place to live, the best place to work, and the best place to learn. Thank you to tonight's guests again for joining me this evening. Thank you to our production crew and to you, our viewers. And of course, there's always one last thing. Go Bulls! Good night, everyone.